Possess the land and sail the seas and centuries have passed until the day a hero named Mariner claimed his task. Again, we love to play, we against his will, playing until the early morning. Again, we explain Martin Hayes' deep again, we sail against the Lord. As Mariner set off on his quest, he knew he needed a crew. The navigator joined the ranks and so did Mr. Q. Sailing for adventure, stories and for treasure. We will help you through, so climb aboard and join the crew. Deep again, we love to play. We against will keep playing until the early morning. Deep again, we explain Martin Hayes. Deep again, we sail against the Lord.
Ahoy divers, and welcome back to Deep Dive Gaming. I am the Mariner, and we are returning to our discussion of Final Fantasy X in our stream of consciousness today. Ahoy Twitch, ahoy YouTube, ahoy Rumble, ahoy Mojo, ahoy Hiro,
What up?
ahoy Tyrundeth,
Hello.
and ahoy Mariner Kitty, who's sitting on her self-heating mat. So we are going to resume a discussion, as I've already said, of Final Fantasy X, with me reporting on the fact that I have completed Final Fantasy X. And Tyrundeth asked me before the stream what was my methodology, so I figured I shall tell the tale to get started tonight. So I'll abbreviate the first attempt because there were two attempts at defeating Sin. The first attempt involved no celestial weapons, only the standard Aeons, and going in essentially blind. I had a guide. The guide gave me some pointers, and I was three attempts, sorry. The first attempt, I was like, I'm doing all right. I'm whittling him down slowly, but I'm getting there, and then everything fell apart on me. Second time, I went in without doing anything extra, just to see if I'd messed it up the first time, and was making no progress. So I was like, well, this sucks, so I guess I'm going to have to go do something. So I ended up doing some Monster Arena stuff to get Yuna's Celestial Weapon. Tried, or at least looked at getting other Celestial Weapons as well, and went like, that's going to take a while. So what I decided to do instead was go around and collect all the optional Aeons that you can have, and also equipping one or two extra characters with a holy spell and a full life spell. That way I had options. And I went in again and got pissed off by the fact that I had to find these crystals that seemed to always spawn behind the camera. And yeah, so I never bothered to get the no encounter upgrade for any of my weapons or whatnot, because it was going to take a lot of time in the Monster Arena that I was not willing to get into quite yet. I saw the goalposts and I wanted them, so I did the minimal amount that I needed to do to be able to get them. So, final attempt, went in, ready to go. And I did the correct, at least I think I did the correct actions of having Yuna with the Holy Spell, Titus with Haste, or Hastega, and Oron with the various break options that he has. And started going to town, whittled him down to a certain amount with holy spells, and then brought out, which one was it? I think I brought out the was it the sisters, or was it? It might have been Bahamut. I ended up using 3 Aeons for this fight. I think it was. Trying to remember. I don't even think I would. It wasn't Yojimbo. It was one of the other, I think, optionals. But anyways, got it down to a certain amount, and then shot it with an overdrive from the first Aeon. That got him down to the point where he was morphing into phase 2. And then I brought out Bahamut, shot him, or I waited for the overdrive, used the overdrive to summon Bahamut, used Bahamut's overdrive to hit him for like 25,000 hit points, then did a few more holy spells, and then got him down for far enough that I could bring up. Actually, no, it might have been. What's the forgetting the name? Anima. I think I brought out Anima, hit him with Anima overdrive, whatever that one's called. That one's a slick move, actually. I was very impressed with that overdrive.
It's called Pain.
Pain, yes. And I think that might have been it. Or he didn't quite do it, and I had to hit him with no. Yeah, I got Sin with Anima. I think that's what happened. I had to survive. I survived just long enough with my characters to get jacked to the point where I could do a one-shot, one kill with one of my Aeons. Did that twice, and I won. Ha ha ha.
So what I'm hearing is you did it the hard way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably would have been able to do it quicker and easier if I had gotten everybody else's celestial weapons.
Nope, don't even have to do that. There's a faster way.
Oh, do tell.
Oh.
Orin has a particular skill toward the end of his
I
secret.
remember this. I'm sorry, Tyrundeth. I remember this because when you discovered it, you were like, "Watch this."
Yeah, I didn't know that he was going to be vulnerable to it. But the skill is called Zombie Strike.
I read on that.
Yep.
I read on it. I was going to do it, and then I realized what it would take to unlock it, and I went, nope. But yeah.
But here's it actually creates a very funny feedback. When you damage him under, or because the pillars that he has, they heal him, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The funny thing about Zombie Strike is that it flips holy and unholy.
Oh no, I'm aware. I accidentally killed Yuna like two different attempts by trying to heal her up, not realizing she was zombified.
Yes, exactly. And it does the same thing. You can actually force him to kill himself with his stuff around him.
I actually think I equipped a zombie attack on one of my weapons. I also remember made sure I had characters up front that had zombie proof and stone proof equipped, so as not to get into that trap my own self.
Yeah. And they will use it against you.
Yes. Heck, I used it against myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Whoops. But yeah,
Actually, I think it may have been 4
there's-
attempts, because after I accidentally killed you the second time, I rage quit.
Yeah.
there's, I think Waka also gets one. Like a zombie attack. But the zombie strike is the one that works more.
Yeah.
And that one you only get from Auron.
Okay. Yeah, I think it was.
I just remember Tyrundeth saying, "Hey, watch this." Loads up the game, goes zombie strike, and then casts life. Game over.
Yep, I casted life and it was just dead.
Wow. I'll have to remember that.
Yeah, it deals like, because there's a max damage cap, um, and technically, Yu Yevon has more health than the damage cap, even when you hit the break damage cap, which still only gives you an additional 90,000 damage. It maxes it out every time you cast it.
Yeah. I do like the Yu Yevon, that the fact that you're not allowed to actually lose the Yu Yevon fight at the end after defeating Sin. Or eject, however you want to say it. That's a little bit of a work
you
because you have to
can
work
lose it.
through all your Aeons.
You can lose it.
Really, because you get casted life if everybody dies. I know because all of my party members went down, and I had to sit through the life animation 3 times in a row.
Huh. Really?
Hmm.
Maybe they fixed it for the remake or the
They
HD
might
remaster.
have. They may have, because I remember having to replay it a few times after maxing out my Aeons entirely.
Oh yeah. It just didn't go well.
Mariner Kitty.
Like, I had all stats at like 99.99.
No, I bet that took some work.
And yes, I had, I think, somewhere around 1,000+ hours,
Woof.
and my
Talked them out of winning.
yeah, I could win, but I had to be very careful. It was actually I went in with using the celestial weapons, and it was because of this that I found out that there's another way. The celestial weapons are the strongest pre-constructed weapons in the game. Note, I said pre-constructed.
You can craft better.
Yep, you can craft better by far.
Do you get any that will do the 1 MP? Oh, I've been forgetting to play the
Yep.
playback. Whoops.
I specifically crafted Yuna's with double cast 1 MP.
Oh,
And the same with Lulu. And that was freaking scary because she has a double cast as it is. And
So it's a double cast.
yep, quad cast. And it
Oh.
was freaking ridiculous.
I'm gonna have to see if I can unlock that for my second playthrough. I am playing through a second time, and I'm using the expert grid to see the difference.
The big thing that you're gonna have to do is fully unlock the planes menagerie. You can't do it without it.
We're talking about the monster arena, collecting all the beasties, and then doing
Yep,
the
you
ones
have
you
to
unlock.
collect every single one in multiples of 10.
You missed my story of how I beat Final Fantasy X, Mojo. But I can retell the tale another night.
And I halfway teased him about it being the hard way.
Only semi. I feel like if I had really tried, I probably could have gotten him without doing the celestial weapons or the extra holies or the zombie proof, stone proof. I would just have had to have been very careful and a bit lucky. But I buffered I hedged my bets. What?
Was that Riku I just saw?
Where?
If you backtrack a bit. Right there in top left.
Yeah, that's her.
Okay.
There's the monster arena we've been talking about. Let's see if I can fast forward to something a little more interesting. Excuse me. Oh, this is a good fight. So, anyways, let's take a break from the nostalgia. And I saved a section of the wiki or fandom for you to read for us, Hiro, from last week. Check out critical reception. Yes.
Ah, yes. Critical reception. So, picking up from critical reception, Final Fantasy X received generally high review scores in both the Japanese and Western media. Critics generally praised the game's storyline, graphics, and movies, although some criticized the game's dialogue and linearity, as well as the sphere grid leveling system.
Hold up just a sec. I'm trying to remember. I feel like I read this, but maybe not. Well, keep going. It's worth a recap if we have.
Either way, many reviewers praised the story. Game Informer claimed the story is less predictable than previous games, saying that it feeds off of your emotions, stabs you in the back, and then takes your breath away. GameSpot says it's... Yep. GameSpot says that it weaves an engrossing and memorable story filled with a number of great characters. That's one of the things that I really enjoyed about that. About what I learned of this one is that it is very. Every character has a deep story of their own. It's not like a lot of the other games where you get a deep story for like the main cast, but several of the characters or the majority of the characters are really not all that deep. Anyways, critics also praised the presentation, with many comparing its visual style through the artwork to Final Fantasy VIII. Eurogamer said that the design and animation is stronger than anywhere else in the series, and claimed that the game is transformed into more of a movie than a game at times. And I can appreciate that. Let's see. The gameplay had a pretty divided audience due to the linear structure and the sphere grid. I think that a lot of people just didn't like the change in the leveling style with the sphere grid. That's just an opinion for me, though. Famitsu readers voted Final Fantasy X the best game of all time in early 2006. That's quite a claim.
Yeah.
That said, I will say that it's wow, 1.4 million copies in Japan in pre-orders alone.
Yeah, we touched on that last time. 6.6 million copies sold by 2004, 14 million by 2013. Who knows how many since then? Well, Square Enix probably.
Why do you think they're re-releasing everything with remasters?
Yep.
They're trying to cash in on that lightning in a bottle.
They're focusing on their better titles first.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully they can catch some, inspiration for making new titles, doing something new.
Yeah. I was actually watching a video review of why the Final Fantasy cinematic film flopped, and
Oh, which one?
the uh, the standalone,
There's two.
this first
There's Final
standalone.
Fantasy Within, and then there's Final Fantasy Advent Children.
Those are not standalone. Those are sequels to games. The
Spirits
Spirits
Within?
Within, yes,
Ah,
and the Hello
yeah.
Ahoy Foxy. But yeah, it's definitely worth the investigation because it's like it it broke ground in certain future endeavors or broke ground for future projects to have the technology needed to do it well, but in and of itself it didn't pay off. In fact, it lost the studio money, resulting in the studio actually getting shut down.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That it was very, very odd. I don't know how else to say it. I was not at the time. I didn't care much for it, but now I look back. Like if I actually were to sit down and pay attention to the story they were trying to tell, I probably could pick it up better now. But at the time, I did not care much for it when it came out.
What really got me was the fact that it's ended with everybody dead. I'm like, what's the point of that? If there's no survivors
Yeah.
to rescue, what's the deal? Or,
Yeah, that too. It also but like even now I can look back at it with some of the stuff that I've picked up from the Final Fantasy VII storyline. I can actually look back and I can see, okay, this makes a lot more sense now as to what concepts they're getting at with the spirits and this planet.
yeah,
And in effect and what it has to do with the Black Matera. Like you can actually take those concepts and like understand them better.
yeah. But
But
we digress.
still,
I want to steer us back around to Final Fantasy X. What was Tyrundeth? Probably this is the better question for you, because you played the earlier games. How was it having voice acted characters for the first time?
It was a bit of a jarring experience at first, but not very much not unwelcome. So.
Mojo. Yes, I am. I realized this in my adulthood. I watched that series in my not adulthood. I had certain rules when I was a kid growing up. I didn't like movies where femme fatales died. I didn't like movies where obviously there were no winners. I got to the age though where I was over that, and one of my favorite movies of all time is Avengers: Infinity War. Not Endgame, Infinity War, and I'll tell you why. The bad guy won. I think that was the first time in cinematic history that the bad guy won at the end of the movie.
It depends entirely on your perspective. I would argue that Riddick is not a good guy.
that's very fair.
Okay, so let's say it this way. The antagonist won. In Riddick was the protagonist, and he won. He may not have been a good guy. He may have been a bad guy, but he was the protagonist. See, Mariner Kitty agrees with me.
That's fair.
That is very fair.
So, let's see. We're at almost at the 30-minute mark. Do we continue?
yeah.
Is there more to talk about, or shall we shift to 10-2?
I would say, without giving spoilers, there's really not much left.
Okay. Let me...
Very.
We're going to take a quick pause while I go find the 10-2 remaster video to play in the background. Stand by for just a mo. Let's see. There it is.
All right, everyone. Play the anchor. The stream is starting. When the flags along the tone, the captain who would say, the seas are streaming and reviewing mods and video games. They search the land and sail the seas and centuries have passed until the day a hero named Mariner claimed his task. Deep dark and we love to play video games. We don't play games ever. Deep dark and the waves play mods and games. Deep dark and we sell my girls and more.
And we're back. Sorry, Mojo. We started on the conversation about your 7 movie before we came back. So, is this you and right?
Very weird choice for these characters in this game.
Also, I would recommend Hiro, if you can, bring up a side-by-side of Yuna from Final Fantasy X versus Final Fantasy II. You will see a distinct change in the facial structure of Yuna. But yes, Final Fantasy X-2. We won't go too deep into this one because since we've made it to 10-2, I don't want to drag this into a second episode because it should be fairly quick to get through. I gotta find, there it is. No, that's not it. I gotta find my fandom page for 10-2. There it is. Okay. 10-2, direct sequel to Final Fantasy X, developed and published by Square Enix, released in March 2003 for PlayStation 2. Since been re-released for as part of Final Fantasy X/10-2 HD Remaster for PS3, PS Vita, PS4, and Microsoft Windows. It was directed by Motomu Toriyama and Tetsuya Nomura, providing the character design for both Noriko Matsueda and Takahito Eguchi composing the score. It was the first direct sequel game in the Final Fantasy series and the first to feature an all-female playable cast. It also returned to the job system not seen in the main series since Final Fantasy V. Let's see. Game takes place in Spira during the Eternal Calm 2 years after Final Fantasy X. Continues the story of Yuna, who has become a sphere hunter and a member of a sphere hunting group, the Gullwings, with Riku and Pain. Yuna hunts for spheres to find clues about a mysterious man who looks like her lost love, Titus. However, she becomes entangled in a political turmoil the Gullwings must resolve to prevent a war, uncovering a plot to destroy Spira with a secret weapon from its ancient past. Ooh.
So I'm looking at these side-by-sides, and oh my gosh, you are completely right. Her face was visibly longer in 10 than it is in 10-2. Her face is like her facial structure. If you were to measure from the top of her head to the bottom of her to the bottom of her chin, it's visibly shorter, and her cheekbones are visibly wider. Like what?
Eyes
the
are further
hell?
apart too.
Yeah.
Do I have that? Yep, I have the video muted. I heard something else. I thought it was the music track. I'm like, no, I don't want to get struck. So, anyways, let me finish up. Final Fantasy X-2 uses a character class system where the equipped dress sphere determines her abilities and stats. Player members can switch to any dress sphere in their garment grid, read closet, to swap to new skills and attempts to adapt to different opponents. It makes use of the active time battle system that was absent from Final Fantasy X. The party has access to all locations early on and can visit them through the Celsius. Complete several mini-games and side quests in a chapter before progressing through the story to the next one. Final Fantasy X-2 received a positive reception from critics and was commercially successful. It has a score of 85 out of 100 on Metacritic, and in 2013, Square Enix announced that Final Fantasy X and X-2 combined had sold over 14 million copies.
So I kind of sort of take exception with that statement that, well, I mean, you can't argue with numbers, but 10-2, in general, the impression that I got, even from Tyrundeth, please don't let me speak for you, but the impression I got was that it wasn't as well received at all, and like it was like a lot of people claimed it to be a downgrade.
A lot of people did, but a lot of people didn't bother actually paying attention to the fact that if you don't go through everything in the game, which you don't necessarily have to do, you don't get all the story.
Wait, say that last part one more time. Even if you do everything, you don't get the story? Or unless you do everything?
In some cases, if you don't do them in a certain order, you don't get the story either.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, so you absolutely will need to use a guide on that one.
Yeah, well, I'm not even doing the second playthrough of Final Fantasy X without the guide I used the first time through, because I wanted to make sure I get everything. Plus, there's a lot of stuff that I didn't do the first time that I'm going to try for this time.
There are things that are not only that, but it was mainly speedrunners that would tell you that the game sucked, partly because if you tried to speedrun it, it wouldn't even give you like 30% completion.
Woof.
It also became exceedingly difficult to even manage.
Wow, that's a shock.
It impossible.
I'm sorry, I'm reacting to the fact that you went from full cinematic mode to game cinematic mode, and the difference in emotiveness of the characters dropped drastically. And this isn't even the remake.
Unfortunately.
Like at least in 10 they blended it in such a way that made, well, yeah, but they did it in such a way in 10 that it wasn't as shocking. Like going from full anime cinematic mode to what you got in with the expressionless, emotiveless character that you get during the fight is just wow. I mean, they at least tried in the game. At least they tried in 10 to like give some facial expressions to the characters when you were close up like that. Not this game.
Here's a little bit of a spoiler for you, and part of why it happens like this, especially in this one. You've played through this, right?
No, but I know the story because I watched like one of these playthrough videos many years ago.
You said that's Yuna, right?
Yeah. Well,
It's
no.
not.
Technically,
Why
no, it's not
then
Yuna, but
did
it's spoilers. It's someone in a Yuna suit.
Exactly.
But still, the character arc for Yuna matches this.
I mean, that's fine. That's fair.
In fact, I'm not sure if we got the reveal yet about that.
I don't think you get the reveal for a little bit yet.
Okay.
Yeah, it's part of what is dubbed
It
Act
comes
One,
in
but
this
it's not.
fight.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. But yeah, no, I've read the story and I've watched the playback, so I know what happens in this game. Watching it now, I'm like, I don't know if I'm actually going to ever play 10-2, though, because it's very... I don't know. We'll see how I feel when I get bored with 10. But I also want to go and play 13 a little bit so that I have something to talk about when we get to that in a few weeks' time.
I would say that's for the show. That's a good idea. However, for your sanity, I've heard that 13 and 13-2 were bad. I'll put it that way. I've heard that they were bad.
I have played through them. I would argue that they're not bad, but if you don't actually pay attention to the dialogue and pick up some of the side quests, you might actually consider it so.
It's not bad, it's just misunderstood.
Exactly. Again, people don't want to go through, or they want to play a game the fast way. They don't want to play it and get everything in it. It's more of a Final Fantasy has always been more of a completionist's RPG.
I suppose I would not have a problem with these particular games then.
We'll have to discuss it more when we get there. But let's see, what would be good to get into for this? We probably don't need to worry about the settings so much. Well, let me read a few. Let's see. Blah 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 blah. Blah 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, we'll leave it alone. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. Themes. We could talk about themes. A central theme of Final Fantasy X-2 is searching for the lost, as Kamari's discovery prompts Yuna to set out the lost what? Wait, I think they left out a word here. The central theme of Final Fantasy X is searching for the lost, comma, as Kamari's discovery prompts Yuna to set on a journey to find her first love. Wow, who wrote this? The theme of memories and how they affect people is also prominent. Yuna, Riku, and Pain think about past events and find strength in them to keep going and look towards the future. As Shuyan's despair over the Machina War and his failure to save Len grew over a millennium and began acting on its own, he became a monster who wanted to destroy Spirit. By acting as Len's vessel, Yuna is able to express Len's memories and emotions, including the pain that results from war, and stop spirits from repeating their past mistakes, and help Shuyan find peace. I'm getting flashbacks to neurotic review videos about the MCU. Another prominent theme is friendship. Pain joins the Gullwings and initially keeps to herself, but learns to open up, despite Yuna and Riku are often annoying her. The party discovers Pain's past friendship with Nuge, Gipple, and Barley, one of Pain's reasons for joining the Gullwings. Skipped over a lot of information here, apparently. Yuna's journey is that of self-discovery. No longer a summoner, Yuna isn't burdened by the profession's responsibilities and is free to embrace the life she once believed she'd have to sacrifice for Spirit's sake. Through her time under Riku's influence, Yuna finds her place in the new spirit and finds a strong and confident woman inside herself. Audible groan. Additional themes are human conflict and change. Spirit has changed since Sin's defeat and the arrival of the internal calm. A reformed Yevon fights with the recently formed Youth League over the control of Spirit's future, with the Machine faction, while the Machine faction tries to remain neutral by supplying Machina to both sides. Now that Sin is gone, the people are free to have fun in life, no longer subject to Yevon's false teachings. However, they have to deal with the repercussions of the actions taken to achieve that independence and the people whose lives were lost in the process,
What?
and come to
Am I
terms.
seeing that?
What?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for interrupting, but what is going on with Riku?
I
Her
missed it.
character model glitched out.
I have to back it up. Was it there? Oh, I did. Yeah, that was probably a glitch. Okay. There we go. All right. So where did I leave off? Deal with repercussions and process become terms with blah 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 blah. This and that and the other thing. Okay. So you want to read the development section?
Let me jump over to that. Prologue.
No cousin, it was in Final Fantasy.
Endings. Oh, this. I am on the wrong site, I believe, because I do not have the development.
Here, let me see if I can send it thine link. Boop. And boop. Bip. There you go.
Loop in. Of course, the screen glitched out on you.
Yeah, because I was in Discord. Discord causing problems once again.
Yes, Discord always causes problems. What can I say? Who are they fighting? What is that character's name? I can't remember. Let's see.
Fake
Final
Yuna.
Fantasy X. Yeah, fake Yuna. Back. God bless it. There it is. Final Fantasy X wasn't originally planned to have a sequel. After a strong fan reaction to the short story titled Eternal Calm, included with Final Fantasy X International, the development team decided to continue the story. Producer Yoshinori Kitase had commented that at the time, the team was ready for a new challenge and thought creating a sequel to Final Fantasy X would be a kind of challenge they hadn't yet tried. Okay, so we almost didn't get a Final Fantasy X too.
What would have been the
My
loss?
God. Well, a continuation, like a more completed story. Like
Yuna's
I
tragic
really-
ending not being so tragic if you play it right.
Yeah. The whole purpose of 10-2, from what I understand, was to basically wrap up the story with a happier ending, because traditionally
Yeah.
Final Fantasy is not known for happy endings.
No, it's really not.
Victory, but at
Like-
what cost?
I'm very, very sad with the ending of Final Fantasy 16 and Final Fantasy 15. Both are very, very tragic endings. Kind of made me a little agitated at how they ended, because it's like, come on, all that work and my reward is death? Come on.
Save it for those episodes. Save it for those episodes.
But so I kind of agree with occasionally some alteration in the status quo of the traditional tropes of Final Fantasy is good. Anyways, yeah, basically, Final Fantasy X-2 was not a planned thing. They didn't want. Ironically, the developers didn't want Final Fantasy X-2 to be a mere extension of the previous game. Even before the team had completed the sequel story, they had worked on recreating Yuna's look and decided on a story to fit that style. In the end,
Hard miss.
in the end, you came up with an extension of 10 story.
It wasn't. It wasn't.
They didn't really achieve their goal. But fair. Let's see.
It's not so much an extension of the story as it is a deep dive, if you will, into the history.
Okay. That I can give you. It gives you more context on the story.
Oh, and
The team took inspiration from films like Charlie's Angels and Tomb Raider.
Oh god.
it did. It definitely did.
I mean, some of those stunning cuts, like the introduction to the three of them when they all like team up to fight to fight together. That was totally a Charlie's Angels / Sailor Moon kind of cut right there.
Yeah.
Also, something to note, did you notice the name of the kid at the console?
I missed it.
I did not see it.
That one. Right there.
The one driving?
Which,
Or the one
No,
tapping
he's not
away?
driving.
Tippity tap tap,
The one
tippity tap
tapping
tip.
away.
Okay.
His name,
Please say it's Bosley.
is
No.
Shinra.
Shinra.
What, Ra?
Shinra.
Shinra.
Oh gosh, I missed that completely. I think I would have missed that.
One of his quotes later on in the game is, you know, I could probably devise a power system based on these spheres.
Dun dun dun.
And all the spheres look suspiciously like materia.
Whoa, is this one of those times where we see the overarching multi-game plot?
I'm thinking this was a early hint at it.
I don't think they were hinting at it that early on. I think just opinion, because nobody's ever going to see the truth, quote unquote. I don't think, because I don't think any company's going to admit the truth. I think that it's very much like what they did with The Legend of Zelda, where they had a bunch of games that came out, and then they were like, no, these are completely separate storylines. There is no overarching storyline. And then later on, they're like, you know what? This seems like a good idea now. And they decide to connect the dots.
How many
Nintendo.
How many fan sites and forums did they peruse to get the?
Honestly, it could be anyone's guess.
Yes, Mojo. They retconned.
And interact with everybody.
I don't know if I'd call it so much a retcon, because retcon seems to imply a change in the lore surrounding games. You don't really get a retcon with, like, for example, the Zelda's overarching timeline. You don't really get a retcon because they basically just published a book and said, hey, this is the order that these games take place in, and this is how they connect. And my feeling is that they probably did something similar with the Final Fantasy series. Well, Square did.
It's definitely interesting. Let's see. You want to keep going on the development? I see a couple of paragraphs there that I want to hear about.
Okay,
Director
let's see.
Motomu Toriyama.
The developer, yeah, okay, yeah, I already mentioned that
Okay.
right there. So, the developers wanted a change from the previous. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, and they wanted a change from the previous game's theme. The Final Fantasy X theme was described as independence from the ties of laws and customs. In contrast, 10.2 was about the changes caused by the chaos after gaining that independence. In 10, each character had something important to face, but in 10.2, the developers wanted to show their journey searching for their new self, to contrast with 10's at times sorrowful atmosphere. 10.2 was to have a pop and upbeat tone in the game's beginning.
Hence the
Okay.
music.
Yeah. Many locations were redesigned and the game excluded summons and included new vehicles. Yeah, 10.2 uses a new version of the ATB system, which lets players time their attacks for combos as the party can act at the same time. The assistant game designer for 10 became the lead for its sequel. It spearheaded using a different system. A big new element was the dress spheres, which allowed the party to switch between different roles in combat on the fly.
Ahoy, Penguin Lemonly! Welcome back.
What up, Penguin?
Hey, Penguin.
Long time no
Let's-
see. She's lurking for because she's driving. And ahoy, soda
Hey,
pop.
Yeah, let's see. Since the beginning, the team knew that 10.2 wasn't going to have the summons and that they would need something to take their place. This spawned the idea for sphere change system since it provides something that is appealing both visually and in terms of gameplay. Tyrundeth can attest to that.
Yep.
Since Final Fantasy X-2 was the first game in the series to reuse a game world, the developers wanted to offer something new in other areas and took a different approach to the battle system. Anyways, excuse me.
Let's really quickly cap this off with the reception. Final Fantasy X-2 sold well. Within a few months of its North American release, the game sold 1 million copies, plus nearly 2 million in Japan. In 2013, Square Enix announced that the Final Fantasy X read that the game's stylistic changes from past Final Fantasy titles created controversy. Final Fantasy X-2 was the first playable direct sequel to a Final Fantasy title, and the game's atmosphere was a drastic change from that of Final Fantasy X. The reuse of content also received criticism. Despite negative comments, critical reception was mostly positive. Wahaha. Let's see, anything else I want to cover really quick? What's going on?
I was just laughing at them dropping in on the area.
Oh, okay. No, yeah, it kind of got me thinking, like, if this is if these are the Charlie's Angels, who's Charlie? Who's Bosley? So I could totally see. I could see Sid, Riku's dad
Nope.
being.
Charlie would be Buddy, or not Buddy, brother.
Brother. Oh, okay. I was picturing him more as Bosley.
No, that would probably be Buddy
Okay.
or Shinra.
Well, remember, Charlie was never actually seen in the Charlie's Angels. He was only the voice. Bosley was the front man, literally. So he would. So I was. That's what I was thinking. Brother would be Bosley, and then
Yeah. Yeah.
who would be? So who? What character would be off camera, being Charlie? That would be the question.
That's a good question.
Kimari.
Sid.
Sid, yeah. Sid would probably could be Charlie as well. Okay, so I think we've got
5 minutes.
Yeah, I think we've got a ending on a good spot for 10-2. So next week we will get into Final Fantasy 11. You want to go ahead with the shameless plugs there, Hiro?
Sure. Check us out on Friday nights. 7 Eastern, or I'm sorry, 8 Eastern, 7 Central. We talk about pop culture, news, video games, entertainment. Laugh at dumb stuff going on in entertainment because Hollywood is tone deaf.
That's
nothing
the
new there.
Lagging Out channel, not this one.
Yep, that's on Lagging Out.
I love how we've done this long enough that you've blurred who's on, which channel you're on.
It's really blurred at this point. But yeah, check out lagginout.com for some articles and recaps of the podcast. And then let's plug what Mariner does. What do you do, Mariner?
So yes, tomorrow night I will be on this channel resuming my Final Fantasy VII playthrough, and then Thursday night I will be on Lagging Out's channel again playing Final Fantasy VII. Plugging the heck out of the live on Friday night. And then let's see, what else do I do? Oh yeah, we're still on hold. We're still on hold on whether or not something is going to be happening on this week's Friday Night Live podcast. It is fully dependent on someone who shall remain Beam Bandit. And
someone who shall remain Beam Bandit.
But I won't spoil. I won't say anything more than that, simply because I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't want to disappoint people. But yes, and also Mojo has dropped Tyrundeth's Linktree type link in the chat. Go check out his various channels and give him follows or whatever's. I don't know what all he streams on.
Mainly just Twitch. I've been streaming Twitch and Kick lately.
Okay. And then, let's see. Yeah, I think that covers everything. So, I appreciate everyone for coming. I appreciate Hiro and Tyrundeth coming and giving more than one side to the view of Final Fantasy. Some either more informed view, some more experienced view of the games. And like I said, we'll be back next Tuesday night at the we will be back next Tuesday night for Final Fantasy 11 if you don't catch us before or catch me on any of my personal streams. So, until then, enjoy Final Fantasy. Fair winds and fun gaming, y'all. Say goodnight, peeps.
Good night, peeps.
Good night, peeps.
Bye.